since this game was really close, or this match was really close, very tense, and probably I should have lost this match. We're being fair. Yeah, say hi to Wesley who's watching. Hey Wesley, I hope you enjoyed this analysis. I hope you're ready for completely different openings. I'm gonna spend 10 hours preparing. And good morning, everybody. How you guys doing? Hope you're in a fantastic morning, afternoon, evening, wherever you are in the big wide world. We're back. We're live. We're streaming once again. We did take yesterday off, but I think almost everybody who is in the chat who's watching the stream was aware that I played a very tense, very dramatic match last night against none other than Liren from China. So we're going to take a short look at that match. I'm not going to go through the games in depth because there are a lot of critical moments that I want to share. So we'll go from there. All right. So first point that we're going to start from is at the beginning of the match. Let me stop the music, by the way. So we're going to start from very early on in the match, which is, so the way the match started was I won the first game with white. I won a very nice game. The second game was drawn in a Catalan, and then there was this critical third game. So I was up 1.5 to half at this point in the match, feeling very good about myself. Now, once again, we're not going to go through the game in depth. But knight f3 d5, I'll just go through it very quickly. We played this sort of Fianchetto Grunfeld setup with g3 bishop g2. He played the Slav setup with d5 c6. I also have had this in over the board chess too. In my most recent over the board chess tournament, which was St. Louis Rapid and Blitz, I actually had the same variation against none other than Peter Savidler, who I beat in the round of 16 in the Speed Chess Championship as well. So I'm not going to go through the game super in depth. Anyway, Ding started out playing this setup, and it did not really go very well for him. Now he did end up winning this game, but this was his initial opening try with black. Now we got this position right here where it's pretty balanced. Maybe one side's a little bit better, not really clear, very choppy, but at any rate, I'm not going to go through the game in depth. So bishop c1, knight g5, and now I take, he takes, I'm able to take this pawn d5. Now position here is quite complex. White obviously is down in exchange. Black has two rooks. White has a bishop for it. In return, however, at this point in time, white does have a bishop and a pawn for the rook, so it's not completely clear-cut what's going on. Additionally, there are also threats towards the king on g8. So black goes king g7, not e6, because after e6 I can play bishop takes e6. If black plays f takes e6, I have queen takes g6 check, king f8, and then queen takes g5 is very simply winning for white due to the black king being so open and weak here. Anyway, Ding plays king g7. I go bishop a2, keep the bishop on this diagonal. Again, not going to go through this super in depth, but it is worth noting that I am quite a bit better here. I have a bishop and two pawns for a rook. Additionally, I have the bishop pair that can really attack on this diagonal. So bishop e2, knight e7. Now somewhere around here I started to make some mistakes, which was somewhat symbolic, or not symbolic, but sort of the trend of the match, which was the few times that I got good positions, I generally did not react well. So anyway, let's keep going through the game. Not going to go through it super in depth, obviously, because we have a lot of critical moments to go through. So I'm just going to go through the moves very quickly. Knight e4, queen b5. Okay, so at this point we're both very low on time, so we're sort of just maneuvering all over the board. Maneuver. And yeah, right about here I felt that Ding might have been able to play this knight b4 move. Now he didn't play it in the game, and apparently it's not great, but I was quite worried about this move with queen b4, where he attacks the rook and the bishop at the same time. I guess computer says d5 is good for white. Tough move to find considering the circumstances. Anyway, it didn't happen. He goes queen d6, queen e4, knight c3, queen d3, e5 is played here. Now I play e4, takes e5, and even though black has won one of the white pawns in the center here, I have this open diagonal from the bishop on b3 towards the king on g8, and I also have threats towards the pawn on g6. So queen e7 is played, and now I played e6. Now looking back, even at the time not during the game, sorry, but right after this game, I realized that I should have just played queen takes pawn. This would have been a lot cleaner because black cannot capture the queen since the bishop is still on b3, but additionally I can just bring the queen back and then play g6 or e6, and it should be very smooth to win. Instead I played e6, which also is very good. f5 takes queen g6, and now black cannot block with the queen on g7 here because I can go e7, creating the discovered check, king h8, and then I make a queen, rook takes, and black will be getting checkmated here. So instead he goes king f8. Now the reason that I say that I should have played the other line is because even though white is winning here, both of us at this point in time were down to, I want to say, 4 to 5 seconds, if that. And with only a 1 second increment, it's very dicey because one wrong move and you lose the game. So I play king h1, which of course is bad. I should have gone bishop c1. And you know what's funny is I know during the game I saw this, but I think I just thought he goes bishop g7 and I didn't see an instant mate, so I didn't play it. Now of course if I had more time, probably I would have spotted this whole bishop h6 trick and I would have won the game, but again both players were low on time. So I played king h1, queen to g7 is played here. I played queen to f5. No, it was 5 plus 1 second increment was the time control for the first 90 minutes of this match. So queen f5, king e7, bishop c1, rook g8, rook g1, queen g8, knight g5 takes, which apparently by the way is wrong because black does have knight e2 here, which Ding did not see. So I took here, and now with the split second that I had on the clock here, I found the only way to not win the game. So I was at 1.5 and this is the third game, doing really well, and now I play the hilarious move that I thought won on the spot, which is queen f7. Unfortunately, after rook takes queen, pawn takes king d7, as I realized to my horror, I can now create a queen on g8 because the bishop guards the queen, but there's now queen takes h3, and so here after king d7 I ended up letting my time run out and I lost the game. And so this was the first very critical moment in the match, because I firmly feel that if I had won this game and I had taken a 2.5 lead, that I probably would have won this match relatively smoothly. Now again, there's no saying that he wouldn't have been able to put it together or come back, but I think that if I'd won this match, he definitely would not have been feeling very good. I don't think he would have been able to stabilize and change his opening and find that right rhythm or that balance. So this was a very critical moment. It's crazy because this is only the third game of the match, but I do feel that this mistake that I made, this queen f7 move, really changed the course of what was going to happen. I think for the fans it was actually better that I played queen f7. So this is the first moment that I want to talk about. Now the next moment I want to talk about is game number 6 of the match. So we drew the next couple of games, and the next one I want to talk about is game number 6 of the match, and this is where Ding again decided to play this Catalan setup against me. Like I said, we get the standard position and he goes queen a4. Now as I pointed out early in the match, Ding played queen c2, b5, a4, and after bishop b7, a takes b5, a6, I was able to equalize pretty smoothly. We will note, I guess now that the cat is kind of out of the bag, this was something that I did as preparation for the Grand Swiss in Riga, Latvia, and then to see Jan play in the World Championship against Magnus, kind of now the cat's out of the bag, so there's nothing really to hide, but just to show you guys that I do take chess seriously and that it's not like I'm not just making up stuff. I did actually prepare this for the Grand Swiss. So yeah, so I did prepare it for that event, which is why, like, at the time I didn't want to say anything. And also you'll notice when I play a lot of online blitz games, you'll notice that I never play. I was always playing the most recent blitz games I played in this queen c2 b5 line against Brandon Jacobson and Nicholas Theodorou Criari. Every time they played a4, I would play b4 here. So that's another thing that I would say, is that a lot of people don't understand that when I play online versus trying to play like serious, whether it's rapid blitz, classical, whatever it is, over the board, I do have to actually have basically sort of backup variations and a second sort of repertoire to be able to play. Don't say all these stuff. Wesley is watching. Yeah, Wesley is watching, exactly. Well, that's why Wesley has to pay his $5 every month to watch the VOD. But anyway, yeah, so I just wanted to point that out. So anyway, queen a4 is played here by Liren. Now I play a6. Now the big difference is that on queen c2 a6, normally white does not take right away because it's considered to be fine for black. So normally white will play a4 here, and it's a whole different line, but b5 obviously changes it. So queen a4 is played a6. Daniel said that I like playing that move. It all makes sense now that you're hiding prep. Well, the thing is, actually, this was my main repertoire, b5, a4, b4, in all of maybe not all of 2018, but a lot of 2018 and into 2019. I had great success with this b5, b4 line in the Grand Chess Tour in Africa, in Cote d'Ivoire. But unfortunately, the house everything came tumbling down when I lost a very tough game to Alexander Grishchuk in the FIDE Grand Prix in 2019 in Moscow in this variation. It was a great game that Grishchuk played, and I mean, nothing but hats off to him. And since that time, I sort of had moved away from the line, but as you guys see, I was able to rehabilitate it. Anyway, all right, so queen a4 is played here by Liren. I play a6, takes b5, queen c2, bishop b7, bishop d2, bishop e4. Please note, by the way, those of you who are watching the other semifinal match between Nihal Sarin and Wesley So, Wesley was also playing the same line with bishop e4 and c6 black in that match too, so it's a very solid setup here. And the whole point, by the way, is now with the pawn on c6, the bishop is outside of the chain. So if we go back here, let's say you play c6, you'll notice the bishop is behind a very sad pawn on c6, so it doesn't really ever have any scope. But by playing bishop e4 and c6, now the bishop is outside of the pawn chain. So a4 is played, I go knight bd7, knight c3, bishop g6, knight h4, and bishop to h5. Again, not going to get too deep into the weeds of the specifics or what happens. But I will say that at this point, time was roughly even in the game, and I remember that I started thinking for quite a while here. I think I used maybe 25-30 seconds, and this is where this game really got away from me, and this is the first turn where the match really started going the other direction, and Ding started to take the advantage. So rook d8, played h6. All these moves, by the way, pretty normal, but at this point I had already spent a lot of time, and now I kind of lost the thread here. I go queen a3 here, play rook c8. The idea is to threaten knight takes d4. Say white plays e4 here, I play knight takes d4. So he goes to e3, I play pawn to b4 here, goes g4, and now I play rook to a8. Again, very tough position. As you can see, the bishop guards the knight, but the knight is also kind of stuck here, and white can always close the diagonal at any time. So he plays e4, and now actually it kind of starts to spin out of control. Here I do remember during the match, I thought that after knight a3, like I felt like knight a3 just goes, I want to say bishop f1, and I didn't see. Oh, I had knight b1. Okay. I remember during the game I did see knight a3, but I just thought bishop f1 stops knight b5, and I forgot there was knight b1. So you have knight b1, d2 or c3, and it's fine for black. Okay, very, very tricky. Okay, again, blitz game, very hard to spot. Anyway, I played rook a8, e4, knight a1 takes, knight b3, and this is where Ding, I think for the first time in the match, really, he showed that he was really in the zone, because he found a very good move here that I don't want to say that I overlooked it, but I underestimated how strong it was, because the line that I saw was d6, knight takes c1, bishop takes a8, for example. I take bishop b4, knight e2, king g2, knight d4, and this should be a draw pretty easily. White's still a little bit better with the bishops, but it should be a draw. But Ding plays d6 here, which is a fantastic move. Now, mind you, computer does not actually. Oh no, computer is starting to go up. The bar is getting bigger for white. But at the time, again, I felt that I should be okay, but I couldn't figure it out in the complications. I played rook b8, rook e1, best move, by the way. And now I played e5, which kind of loses on the spot, but it's already very hard to play. I guess computer says bishop c2 is somehow drawing the game. Again, very, very difficult. So I ended up playing e5, d7, perfect move, rook d8. And now after bishop c6, I very simply lose because white's threatening bishop b6 and bishop e7. And if I take the bishop like I do in the game here, after takes, he now gets two pawns that are connected, and they're going to march down the board. I go b3, bishop a4, king f8, and c6. Now I could have tried this, but this doesn't do anything either. Bishop d7, b2, c6, make a queen, rook b1, bishop b1, c7, and the pawn goes through, and white wins the game. So I go king f8, c6, and now I resigned here because white just goes c7, c8, or c7, and c takes d8 and ends the game here. And there's really nothing that I can do at this point. It's just very, very bad. So that's what I would say about this. Very, very kind of unfortunate to lose like this, but this was the first point in the match where I felt like it was going the other direction, because up to this point I felt that all the results that had happened, like the loss, especially in game 3, had been self-inflicted, and I didn't feel like I'd been outplayed at all in any of the games. So this really was the first game where it started going in the other direction. So I ended up losing the 6th game, which meant that I was down 3.5, 2.5. We're going to skip ahead to the very next game as well. And now this was a game where I was 100% on tilt. Maybe tilt's the wrong way of putting it, but this is where Ding shifted his whole opening repertoire. I did not respond well, and I got into a lot of trouble immediately. So knight f3, d5, g3, knight f6, bishop g2, and now I play c5. Now, like I said, Ding was playing g6. We were playing this symmetrical Grunfeld, sort of like a Slav, for the first couple of games. But as I said, Ding was able now to shift away after getting the advantage, and that's why I said that if I had won game 3 and taken the lead 2.5, I think I probably would have coasted, because he was able to reset, and then once he got the advantage with that previous Catalan game which he won, he was able to stabilize and play a different setup, which he was very comfortable with as well, and everything started going the other direction. So I played b3, knight c6, bishop b2. Now Ding plays queen c7, showing very good prep. And this is why, again, in classical chess especially, you cannot play very bunky openings, because this b3 bishop b2 looks very thematic, but after knight c6 and queen c7, black is simply better here. Let's say I castle, black can play e5 and take the big center here, and this is pretty bad for white. And once I play d4 takes and knight takes, black can now play e5. Say for example, if we go back a couple of moves in this position, let's just say black plays a move like a6 for example. After d4, c takes d4, knight takes d4 here, black cannot play e5, because then I will trade and take the pawn on e5. So because of that, this was a very good setup, and I played d4, he takes and plays e5. I trade on c6, I castle, and now after bishop c5, black is quite a bit better because of the big center. He's going to castle. The bishop additionally has multiple ways to go, a6 and g4. So I play c4, d4, knight d2. My kryptonite is playing erratically. No, Ding was just playing solid openings. Has nothing to do with playing erratically. He was just playing very thematic and very solid. So d4, knight d2. Now another thing you'll notice, by the way, and this is why, again, pawn structures matter a lot in chess, and you have to play many openings. Let's just go back for a second to let me go back here to the game between Magnus and Nepos. So it's a little bit different, obviously, but you'll notice again it's something similar where black can play for e5, but with the bishop on c5, e3 ideas are not really great. And so now when we get to this position here, I'd love to play e3 and open up the diagonal, but because black has the bishop on c5 and the pawn on d4 here supported by e5, it's very difficult. So I play knight d2, castles, queen c2. Ding plays a5, great move, stops my a3 b4. Now another reason I know I was on tilt is that I just remembered initially when c4 d4 was played, I wanted to play b4 here, but I simply as I realized after Ding played d4, after takes queen a4, black goes rook b8, and now I don't actually get any tactic. So this is how I knew at the time that I was a little bit on tilt, because this is just a very simple move that you should spot instantly. So I play knight d2, castles, queen c2, a5, stops the whole queenside expansion. If I ever go a3 after rook b8, I can never go b4 because he guards it twice. Additionally, b3 is now a weakness as well. So I play king h1, terrible move, which I think at this point I was frustrated, tilted, whatever you want to say. So I play king h1, plays rook b8, I go rook e1, bishop b4, another pretty good move. I played c5, and now after bishop a6, at this point, maybe tilt is the wrong way of saying it. I mean, like, I wasn't like mad, but I was just frustrated. And after this move, it's close to loss. And I realized in this game that I was gonna have to do something crazy and try to get him low on time. So I played h3. He goes rook f d8. I play rook g1, and now Ding missed a critical move here, which was bishop takes e2. And I did actually see this during the game. Once I played rook g1, I realized it, but Ding did not spot this killer blow. And after bishop e2, if I take and he goes d3, this is just completely winning for black. And if I don't take the bishop, say I play queen c1, d3, gigantic bishop guarded by a pawn. Pawn on d3 is very strong, and this is all just a complete disaster here for white. So this was a big missed opportunity by Ding to not take. Instead he plays h6, but he is still winning here anyway. So I go queen c1, sidestep this bishop e2 trick, plays a4, I go bishop a3, goes here. Now I played b4. At this point, again, just desperately trying to not lose on the spot, keep the game going so he gets low on time. So I want to go like g4, g5, and just confuse matters. So he plays knight d5, I go knight e4, he takes. Obviously I'm down in exchange here, takes, but now after queen d2, knight d5, knight d6, at least I have a nice knight on d6, maybe some knight f5 tricks, g4, g5, and I can hope for some kind of swindle. So he goes knight c3, play bishop b2, plays queen a5 here. Now I go back, he goes back, I go back, and now he plays knight b5. Of course, Ding is up in exchange, doesn't want to draw. So knight b5, knight f5, bishop c8, great move. I played g4, sort of a last gasp prayer that I can take, maybe open up the g file. Now Ding takes, which is fine. a3 is fine. but now he plays knight c3, which is a big mistake. Mind you, the position is still completely winning for black, but if Ding had played f6 here or queen to e7, any move that stops his pawn push, he would have won the game. I have no doubt about that. So he plays knight c3, I go f6 here, and now it gets complicated because I have rook g1 here to kind of open it up. Mind you, it's still losing, but Ding was already getting a little bit low on time here, and now he sort of falls apart under pressure. He plays e4, which still is fine, but now after pawn takes pawn, I'm threatening queen h6 and queen h8, and after e3 takes, suddenly black cannot take the pawn because the knight hangs, and it gets very, very hard to play. Mind you, of course, it's still completely winning after queen g3. If I take on d4, he has rook takes d4, and if I take on h6, he can just take with check, and if I take the rook on d4, he just takes the rook with check on e1. So this is still winning, but again, Ding, I think at this point was already down to maybe 5 seconds, and now he goes queen e5, and after this move, it all falls apart. I take on d4, takes on d4, I play queen h6, queen g7, play queen f4. Probably not the best move. I think queen h4 was a much better move. In fact, now I look at why didn't I just go queen h4, because after queen h4 rook b1, I can take the rook, whereas in the game, when I go here after rook b1, there's nothing under attack, and now he pins the rook on e1. So I play king h2 here, he takes, we go queen h4, and now Ding plays rook e8. Again, at this point, I think he had maybe 2 seconds on the clock, and if he plays rook d4, he probably wins this game, but he plays rook e8, and now after bishop h6, it gets very, very tricky to play. Still okay for black after queen g6, but after takes, I can play e4, cut off the retreat. I have queen g4. Very, very hard to play, and with 1 second on the clock, you're never going to find any of this. So queen e5 is played. Now I go bishop f4 here. He plays queen f5. If he were to take the bishop, for example, and then take the rook, I have queen g3 check, collecting the rook on e1. Goes queen f5, I play e4, and now after rook takes e1, I just take the queen, knight b4, f6, and Ding Liren resigns here, because again, I'm going to get queen g5, queen g7, or queen h6, g7, the classic John Batista lolly checkmate. So I won this game. So I swindled this game, which was really, really, really important, because I could have been down 2 games here, and this was the for like the previous game swung it in Ding's direction, but this one swung it back in the other direction, because I should have lost this game, and if I lose this game, I also maybe go on a hard tilt after this. Maybe not, it's hard to judge, obviously, but there is some chance that happens. So this was a very good swindle for me. This tied the match up. Next game we're gonna look at is actually the very next game in the match, which is the game number 8, where the match was tied 3.5, and this was a Catalan defense. Wait, sorry, this was a Catalan defense. Let me make sure I have the right one. So we'll go through this again. So we get the same opening setup, pretty standard. b4, rook d1, go here, rook c8, bishop d5, and again, I pretty much equalized here because I'm going to play c5, open up the c file. The wooden shield in the center of the board is very nicely placed here. So Ding plays queen b1, c5. Again, not going to go through this in depth, but I just want to point out a few things. So this game is pretty balanced throughout, very, very equal here, but I was slightly pressing, and let's keep going. We get this position in this end game where it should be a draw. Definitely should be a draw here. But I play knight d5 here, and there's maybe some small pressure for black. Again, it's even material here, but white is an overextended e-pawn that maybe down the road I can attack. Anyway, knight e4 is played, which I thought at the time was maybe not a great choice. And then I played g5, and this is where I felt that Ding made a big mistake in this game. And it's kind of weird to say this, but I felt that Ding should have played knight f6 here. Now, obviously, it looks like after takes king h7, I'm going to win a pawn. But after rook d4, king g6 h4, takes. This is just a very classic draw here with a rook in 3 versus rook in 2, and I don't really have any chances to win. And Ding had plenty of time on the clock, so I think he should have actually played knight f6. I think when he played h3, this was a big mistake, because now, even though it's still objectively a draw and equal, he's gonna have problems with this pawn at e5 long term. e1, king g6. Mind you, he can still play knight f6. Rook e2. We'll just get to critical moments. We have this long little dance here where I just make a bunch of moves all over the board, and we get to this point, and still this position still should be a draw here, but as you'll notice, we've transposed into or it's sort of been transformed into an endgame where the 2 pawns that white has are doubled versus my f7 e6 pawns. Plays rook f2, a4, rook e2, king g6, king g2, knight c4. king f2, knight b6, and now we just move all over the board 20 different times. Bum, bum, bum. And yeah, and here he still is defending very well, still should be a draw. Oh right, and then right here, finally, after we move all over the board for like 30 moves, Ding blunders with king g2. I take the pawn, and now I pretty smoothly go on to win this. It takes quite a while to win this pawn, or not win this pawn, sorry, win the rook, but I do end up winning it. Go here, and then he blunders this knight e3 check at the end, and no matter where the king goes, white will lose the rook. So if you go king h3, I have knight c2 winning the rook on e1. If you go king f3, same thing. King g3, same thing. Yeah. And if white goes to h4 or f4, I have this fork, and of course h4, same fork to win the game. So I won this game, and this put me ahead by a score of 4.5 to 3.5. So I was very, very, very happy, and I felt it after these 2 wins. Like, you think about the trend. You won that very nice Catalan game. Very next game, I come back, I get that huge swindle where I'm completely lost, and I win this game. I felt really, really good about where the match was going at this point. So I was ahead by the score of 4.5, 3.5, and I felt really, really good. So let's move up to the next game, which is this game. So this is the next game we're gonna look at. I'll flip the board. So that was the end of the 5+1 portion, which I won 5-4. So we move on to the 3+1. And the first couple of games, I think the first 3 games or thereabouts, were drawn at the 3+1. And then we reached like the 4th game, and someone in chat said something. They said, how do you judge moving really fast versus thinking? And I felt that throughout the match, my time usage relative to the calculation was not good. I thought I was moving too quickly at the wrong moments, or I was moving too quickly throughout, and I was not using my time at the right moments, basically. Whereas I thought Ding did that extremely well. So this is the 4th game, and this game is actually a perfect example where I just moving way too fast. So again, not really gonna go explain the opening. I think this is the right one. Is this the right one? Wait, I don't think this is actually. Wait, okay, actually, wait, let me see if I can find it. 1 second. This is not the right game. Just give me 1 second. Because this was the second game that I lost in 3+1. This was not the first one. So I actually need to get this sheet. Let me open this in another tab. Just bear with me for 1 second. Okay, the 3+1. 3+1. I'm just looking very quickly. It was this one. Okay. All right. Okay, no, that's not right. That was. Is this the right one? Let me check. I think this might be the right one. Let me see. Okay, this is the right one. Yeah. All right. Let me create a new tab. All right. So yeah, so this is the game we're going to look at. This is the this was the game, the 4th game of the 3+1. I'm still holding the lead at this point. I think the score at this point was 6.5, 5.5. We had drawn the first 3 games of 3+1. And now this game is pretty inexplicable. It's a pretty clean smash, obviously, but the main reason I was so upset with this game is because as we were trending through the 3+1, I was feeling pretty good, but all that I really wanted to do was just stay up by 1 game or stay even going into the bullet, and I felt that I would win the match. And so I was very upset with myself because in this game I was moving way too quickly, but additionally, on top of moving way too quickly, I also just lost this game without a fight. So if it was a draw, that's one thing, wouldn't be a huge deal. But we're not going to go through this in depth, but I played this like a bullet game, and I got soundly crushed here. To trade, not much really that I'm going to explain about this game other than the final result, and I just resigned the game here. And the reason I bring this up is because when I look at the well, I don't know the exact time, but I think at this point in the game I had about 2 minutes and 40 seconds, and Ding had maybe 25 seconds. To give you an example of how bad my time usage was, like, it's just not acceptable to have 2 minutes and 40 seconds on the clock when your opponent has 25 seconds, and to lose like this, no less. So this was the game that I was very upset with. I think this was actually the critical moment that tilted me. This definitely was a tilting moment where it started to go all wrong. It definitely started going wrong after this game. So I lost this game very quickly, and it was very, very bad. So next game that we're gonna go over, is, let me see if I can pull it up. Is the game is this game? Yeah. So this is this was the next game, I believe, after that game was played, which also contributed to my tilt. So the previous game, as I said, I lost very badly, and then this next game I had the black pieces. Ding chose to switch it up and go into the Queen's Gambit declined here. So we just go through all this stuff. And I played this Rook A7, and I played Rook A8. Now this is actually a big blunder, and Ding kind of tricked me with this line. I wasn't super familiar with it, or this exact setup, and Rook A8 allows B5, which is a huge blunder. Now one thing I will also add that I did in between the portion that I have never done before during the break. I've never done it because I've actually felt that it's just not how you should play the match. I mean, call me silly or whatever. Is that I actually during the 6-minute break, I opened chess space and I went and looked at the line. I've never done that before because I feel like when you're playing a match, you shouldn't do that, kind of. So it's always felt kind of wrong to me. And so this is the first time ever that, like, after a couple of games of losing in this, between the 3-1 and 1-1, I went during the break, I opened chess space to look at the line. No, cheater, no, you can do that during the breaks. You can't do it during the game, obviously. Chat's gonna call it cheating, but it isn't. No, of course not. Everybody has done it though. Everybody has done it one time or another, but I've never done it. I've told myself I'm not going to do that. But yeah, during the 6-minute break between 3-1 and 1-1, after a couple of these bad games, I actually went and looked at this. I looked at this line. So okay, so he plays B5. Now again, this is actually losing. In a later game, Ding promptly punished me with pawn to C6 here, and I lost a very brutal game. But here, knight to D4 was played instead in this one, and the game goes on here. It's pretty balanced, I think. Although I did get a small edge, and yeah, right around here I should be a little bit better. But I was not able to convert this, and I felt that when I didn't convert this advantage with the extra pawn here, now mind you, it's already going wildly out of control here, but when I didn't convert this game with this extra pawn, basically I felt that it probably wasn't meant to be. Or wait, actually no, sorry, this is the right game. So yeah, sorry, this is the right game. So he plays here. I go knight b8, Ding takes, and I go rook e7, bishop d4, king g6. Now again, I have an extra rook for a bishop and a pawn here, but white does have play. That being said, at this point in the game, Ding had, I want to say 15 seconds. I want to say I had maybe like 50 seconds or a minute, and being inexplicably not winning this game was also a huge kind of disappointment, because like I said, the previous game was one where I moved too fast and I lost basically without a fight. I had 2.5 minutes and he had like 30 seconds or whatever it was. Terrible game. But then to not win this game in the following game was really what I think put me on tilt. So we get this position, and actually I almost did throw this game, by the way, a sign of kind of how out of it I was at the time. He goes to h6, and here I go king h7, which if I had realized that white has knight d6 here, I would have instantly just sacked the rook and gone king h7, king e6, g3, force him to take, and we draw the game. But I actually didn't realize that, so I played king h7, and Ding has knight d6 here, and for half a second I thought that I was gonna end up in a lot of trouble. So I played g3, he queens, I played g2, queen f8, now I make a queen, and Ding just plays queen g7 to force the draw. So this was also a critical miss because I was way up on time. I had a much better position. And after this game, I think this was sort of the final situation where from here on, I never felt comfortable in the match. And I actually thought that I don't know if underdog is the right word, but I didn't feel, it never really felt comfortable after this game. This was sort of the last point in the match when I felt like I still felt pretty good about what was going on. So this was a very big miss. So I ended up drawing this game. So the match was tied 7-7. I then lost 2 games in a row, by the way, sort of as you see the trend of the games. The previous game, which I lost, moved too fast. That really annoyed me. This one I had a chance to win, couldn't win, and then I lost 2 games very quickly after that. So it's actually down 2 games, and it was at this point in the match that I chose to switch it up. And this was very much towards the end of the 3+1, and now I played e4. I finally went to my main openings. Now people will take this as me sort of taking shots at players, but I'm not. What I would say is that generally speaking, I try to start with my backup repertoire, and then if I have to go to my main repertoire, I do. And my backup repertoire was good enough against Peter, and it was good enough against Anish. That's not like I'm trying to be rude or roast them or anything, but that's just simply how I approach it. And against Ding, it simply wasn't. Ding was just a different class. So e4, e5, knight f3, knight c6 is played here. I go into this anti-martial variation, which was seen in the match, by the way. Jan Nepomniachtchi played a4. Magnus played both bishop b7 and rook b8. I think he settled on rook b8 as his main move here later on in the match. So b4 is played here. Very old line. I've had quite a few games this I took. Black can take with either the knight or the pawn here. Both captures are playable. Knight takes is played. Play knight bd2. Ding goes knight d7. I play knight d4. Bishop b7, bishop d5. Now this is a line that I have not looked at in a very, very long time. I don't think I've looked at this since maybe like late 2017. Because I felt that most people don't normally play this line anymore, especially after I beat Levon in this in a classical game. It just feels like it's fallen by the wayside. But bishop b7, I play bishop d5. Ding does not play c6. After c6, I go bishop a2. Now the bishop on a very nice square. I can put the knight on f5 here, and it feels very, very good for me. So anyway, bishop d5. So he trades on d5. I take rook e8 is played here. I go f4, knight g6, knight 6. Now all this is very standard, by the way. So yeah, so knight g6, I play knight c6 here. Queen to c8 is played. I go knight to f3 here. He plays bishop to f6 in this position, and again, this is all prep. This is very clearly prepped by Ding Liren. Now I was unfamiliar with this position. I wasn't 100% sure what was going on, but I thought that I should be okay. So he trades, goes knight e7, play pawn to a5 here, queen to b7, and now I go queen to d2. Again, tricky position. White's up a pawn, but my knight on b4 is a little bit boxed here. I can maybe go c3. At the same time, black has issues too on the queen side. So Ding plays rook b8. I go c3, knight c5. Now I go queen d1. And actually, the reason that I wanted to mention this game is this is also another example of where like I wasn't quite there, because you can tell from the evaluation, White's a little bit better. It's not like a huge advantage, but White is better. And I found a way to mess this up. He goes here. I played g5, which by the way, I guess computer loves, but I wasn't happy about it. Is that I thought I should just go bishop e3. So I go g5 takes, knight b3. Yeah, and now here I play an idiotic move. I play rook b1, which is just a ridiculous move. I guess I should have just taken knight a1. And apparently knight c6 is simply winning here. Apparently it's winning. But I didn't do this. Instead, I played rook b1. He checks. And now as you'll see, the bar has gone all the way back down. This is actually no good for me. So I go king g2, bishop c5, play knight to d3 here. And now Ding plays rook e8. I take, knight takes, and now I go b4, and Ding plays queen b5. This is all very bad, by the way. This is not really fantastic. Now, keep in mind, I was down 2 points here. So this was a very, very critical moment in the match. And I go bishop e3, queen d3, which is a mistake, by the way. You should have just gone, like, I guess knight e4, knight d3. Actually, knight e4 clearly is the best move, apparently. But after this move, rook e1, queen takes c3, bishop f2. Black has a big problem because I'm threatening a checkmate on e8 here. Additionally, the queen's under attack, so Ding has to trade, and now unfortunately because of this b4 and a5 pawns going up the board, black's just lost. If you play knight b8 here, I can actually go bishop a7, knight to d7, b5, pawn takes a6, and now basically I just move the bishop. Say you play b4, I move the bishop, and I'm just going to push the pawn forward. The knight cannot go back here because a7, a8. And I also cover the b6 square, so b3, a7. If you go knight b6, I just take and make a queen. If you don't, I make a queen. So it's completely winning. So this is a very, very critical, win. Really, really critical for me to win this game, because what it did is it really put me back sort of in the match. If say for example I had lost this game or drawn this game, say Ding just after I throw away this big advantage and Ding finds very specifically, if he finds knight e4 here and I don't win this game, I think there's probably like I would say 75-80% chance that I lose this match here. I mean, who knows what happens in bullet, because obviously I'm down 2 going to bullet. It's maybe different, but I think it's probably 75-80% chance that I lose this match if I do not win this game. Anyway, I do get this win, which pushes it back to 8.5, 7.5. All right, so now we're going to show the next game, which was the last game. Yes, this is the last game, by the way. Last game of the 3+1 portion. So I'm trailing by 1 point in the match. going into the final game of the 3-1. I'm feeling like if I win this game and I get it back to even, I will have won 2 out of the last 3 games. I have the momentum on my side. I should be able to come back and win this match. So we have the Berlin here, and courtesy of another streamer, I play B4. Now, this is not something that I normally play, but another streamer by the name of Jocelyn Jose Martinez has actually played this against me many times on chess.com, and while it's not like the greatest approach, it's actually kind of hard to play against if you don't know what you're doing. Yes, thank you, Brandon TT. Yes, the person that got a Kamsky thinks cheats. That is exactly who we're talking about. So yeah, so bishop d6 is played here. Jocelyn the cheater, exactly. Yes, Jocelyn the cheater, exactly. So bishop b2, a5 is played here. I play a3, bishop e6, queen to c2. Very standard approach. The whole point is that when black takes on b4, I can take with the c pawn. So h6 is played. Rook c1 is played. WTF Gotta said that. Gotta didn't just say it, Blunder Panic. Gotta hit the report button. He went to Jocelyn's profile. He hit the report button. So he took it to a whole new level. Whole new level. So rook a1, rook f d8 is played here. I played rook fd1. Pawn takes. I take with the c pawn. This is the whole concept, is that I open up the diagonal here. Like normally you want to capture towards the center, but here I capture away because I open up the diagonal for the bishop, and there's a lot of pressure here. Black can't play knight d4 because I can just trade and go e5, forking the bishop and the knight. Actually, he could have done this, and I remember during the match I was wondering, could he have done this? I wasn't sure if he could do this, but during the match I thought this was maybe an idea. So rook d5 was a move. No, I have knight c6, and after takes I just take, and I'm much better here. So this would have been really good. All right, so instead he goes bishop d7. I play bishop to f1, plays knight to d4 here, and now I take, and bishop a4. Now this also is another example of me not being on my rhythm, because in this position I really wanted to play bishop c4, but for some reason I got passive, and I maybe passive is the wrong word, but I actually just forgot that he had bishop a4, because in my mind I was like, I'm gonna play bishop c4. It's much more logical. You target f7 diagonal. Bishop on f1 is just passive. You know, like the bishop on f1 doesn't do anything. It's just on an open diagonal. It's like an op aiming at nothing. So I was gonna play bishop c4, and then for whatever reason I was just like, nah, I just be safe and play bishop f1. And this was also a big mistake, because if I had played bishop c4, the line in the game that Ding played with knight d4 doesn't work, so I can take and play e5. And now after bishop a4, there are a couple things. First of all, I can probably take the knight or the rook here. That's the first thing. So that works. Additionally, actually wait, sorry, no, takes, he can play bishop a4 first. Sorry, this is the line, but I have bishop b3, and now I play queen takes b3, takes, and now I have e5, bishop e5, rook e1, knight d7, takes f4. I win the knight because of the pin, and I would have won the, I win the game. He wouldn't have blundered like this, obviously, but if this had occurred, I would win the game. So instead I play bishop f1, and now Ding, to his credit, he finds this idea, takes bishop a4. And now with the bishop on f1 and not c4, I can't play bishop b3, and it's a big disaster. So I go knight b3, he takes, and now I play e5, trying to complicate matters. He takes, I play rook e1 here, goes knight d7, and I try bishop c4. I am a little bit worse here after queen f6, and this is really bad. So I play queen d3, bishop f4, rook b1, b6, bishop b5, and Ding, to his credit, even here it would have been very easy around this point, just simply simplify, like takes here and just take the small edge and make the draw, but Ding keeps finding the best moves. Knight f8 is a really good move with the idea of knight e6, like probably the best move. I mean, a lot of these moves are good, but the only move that's a really high quality move that's not obvious. So I play a4, knight e6, a5. Idea, create an outside pawn, maybe distract him so I can win this pawn down the road. He goes d3, d2, rook d6, another good move at this position, a7, and again, I'm still much worse here. So keep in mind, as this game is going on, like I realize here that this is the last game. I think the timer had already run out, and I knew this was the last game. I'm down by a point, and so I just told myself, keep going, something will happen, and I keep moving. Now again, this is completely losing for me, make no mistake about it, with correct play, but Ding gets just a little bit careless here. I think this is still very good for him, but here I think was it king e5 or king f5? Okay, computer says king e5, I guess, but something like king e5, knight c2, knight c7, and the idea is knight d5 to tie the king down. So if I check, he goes here. I can't go here because of check. So I can't really go knight f3, and I think I'm actually just lost. I guess I can go here and here, but again, I think king f5 maybe, and king g4 h3. This has to be winning somehow for black. At any rate, this doesn't happen. Instead, he goes here. The game goes on. He trades the pawns, which still is winning, but complicates it. And when all is said and done, I'm actually somehow able to salvage this game and make a draw. I go here, keep maneuvering. Again, here I thought b4 was good, and actually b4 is in fact winning. It looks like computer says it's really good. But he goes here. We trade, and now after knight f2, there's just no way. And if you go b4, there are many ways to draw, but probably knight d3, king c4, knight takes b4, king b4, king f4 is the simplest one. I hit the pawn on g4, and knight e5 is not playable. So he goes knight e5, but after king e4, now I just take this one, and I go here, and the game just ends in a draw. So this was also very critical. If I had lost this game and gone into the bullet down 2 games, based on how well Ding played in the bullet, I think there's a good chance that I would have lost this match. I think there's a very good chance. Probably I would say 80% ish. So this was the last game of the 3-1. So I salvaged this game, kept it a one point lead, and I still thought there was a chance to come back. So I really felt very good. Now again, there aren't many games that I want to go over in the bullet portion, I don't think, at this point. Let me see which game this one is. Yeah, so I don't really want to go over the I don't want to go over any of the bullet games except for when it was at the very end, because a lot of them were very back and forth. Or actually no, there is one game. So the bullet was very back and forth. Ding won the first game of bullet, take a 2-point lead. I won the next one, back to 1 point. He won the next game, back to 2, and then I won 2 in a row to get it back to even. And then I lost a game. I don't have the sheet up to know exactly which game it was, but I lost the game, and then I went into the final game of the bullet with one. I think it was 2 minutes and 18 seconds left. Let me make sure I have the right position. Yeah, 2 minutes and 18 seconds left on the clock after I drew the second to last game. So I knew that this game that I was playing with white down by 1 was going to be the last game of the match, and I had to win the game. So what do you do in a situation like that? Now, what I would say is throughout the match, it's really important that you always try to stay as even as you can. Now, mind you, I did have tilt, but I never really tilted to where it got to more than 2 games. And I think that's a really critical thing, is that no matter who it is, when you're playing a match against players are going to play well at periods of time. But if it gets like 3 or 4 games, yes, I'll just use Fabiano as an example. But say Fabiano, he could maybe have one off game or 2 off games. So Fabiano is not going to have 4 or 5 off games in a row unless he's completely tilted out of his mind. So I always try to keep it within like the 1 to 2, because someone can tilt. Whereas if it's 4 to 5, you like go on the full tilt mode, you're never coming back from that, as we've seen in many matches. So mainly you just try to like stay in there. You just try to just focus on the game itself and keep the pieces on the board. So I play e4 in this game. Last game of the 1+1, I had to win to force a tiebreaker. Also, I would use the second. The other thing is, like, one thing that's important is that you draw upon your experience. And I had this match against Ali Reza, which I ended up losing. He was able to cheese me in the final game of the bullet. But it was very similar, where I started out very fast, got an advantage. He came all the way back. He took the lead, and the time was getting really low. And it was even worse in this situation, because in that match, I think it was there was enough time for 2 games, and I was down by 2. So I had to win the final 2 games to get to a tiebreaker. And I won the first one, and the second one I had like, I think a 8-second advantage, but he was able to cheese me, as I said. And I lost that game in the match. But I really drew upon that match as well, like the experience where you try to basically just stay focused, and you just try to keep the pieces on the board, and you don't think about anything else, which is really important. So I played e4. Ding goes to e5 here. Play knight f3, knight c6 is played here. Play bishop c4. I play the Italian again. I don't think I really played the Italian throughout the match, but I chose to play it in this game, basically because you just keep pieces on the board. Most importantly as well, there are a lot of Italian lines which, while they might not be great, they might be a little bit dubious. In bullet chess, sometimes you can go h3 g4 g5, maybe bishop g5 h4, sack a piece. And in a must-win situation where this was the last game of the match, I felt it would give me the best opportunity. So I castle a5, rook e1, knight d2. Okay, we get this position, all pretty standard. But like I said, even though the position is equal, I know I'm going to have some g4 g5, some knight g3, knight f5. It could just be bad in a classical game. I think it probably wouldn't work, but in a bullet game here, there's much more of an opportunity. So I play here, I go g4. Again, not a good move. You'll see the bar doesn't love it, but the position's getting messy, and that's all that you can ask for at this point in time, is something that gets messy. That's really all that you can ask for here. So that's really the goal for what I'm trying to do. So g4, queen d7, play knight to g3 here, goes rook a d8. Now I played g5, takes, rook to e6 is played here. I go king g2. Probably in retrospect I would have gone king h2 to have rook g1. I mean, I guess computer likes g2 more, but to me, as I look at this, I think king h2 and rook g1 feels more correct. Although actually maybe black can take and go queen d3. Well, but doesn't make a difference. Anyway, play king g2, plays bishop e7. I go knight f5, knight h7. I go back again. Like I said, this isn't great for me at all, but again, pieces stay on the board. I get rook g1. King is a little bit iffy, and so it's complicated. So he plays g6, go rook g1, trade, queen d3, trade, knight g3. And at this point in time, as you can tell, the position is very balanced, but I was way up on the clock here. I had about a minute on the clock, and I think Ding had already down to maybe like 20 seconds. So knight f6, play king g2. Idea is to go king f1, e2, rook e8, king f1, rook e8, king e2. And now I've got my king in the center, and I want to go h4, h5. Ding plays b5, go h4. And now Ding finds knight g4. Another move that... Oh, that's what it is. I knew something was wrong during the game with knight g4, but I couldn't... I didn't spot knight f5. I knew something was wrong during the game with this move, but I couldn't spot it. And then I just like, okay, I'm going to follow through with my plan of attacking. Yeah, knight f5 is really good because if he takes, I take back. I have knight d5, knight f5, I have h5. I mean, everything, and he's got so many weaknesses as well. Like, everything is super weak. I knew this was wrong during the game, but I missed it. So I played h5 here. He takes. What if he takes with a pawn? Yeah, if he takes with a pawn, I take back, and he actually loses the knight because it's pinned here. Yeah, you guys have heard me say that a million times during games. I'm like, I say something is wrong. I can feel it's wrong, but I don't know why. And I remember during the game, I didn't think knight g4 was a move, and I just couldn't figure out why. So I play h5. He trades. Go back, bishop f4. I go here, trade, and now we make a quick tickle, and I play rook h1. Idea to play rook h3 and rook to h1 here. So he plays b4, rook h3, rook d6, rook h1. Again, just keeping all the pieces on the board. Now here, Ding makes a big mouse slip here. He plays bishop to c1. I think it was a mouse slip. I'm not actually sure, but I play rook takes c1, and Ding resigns the game. Now, I assume he meant to go bishop d2, but still after rook h7, king f6, rook takes c7, bc3, bishop c3. I think knight e3 is just close to winning here for white. I have knight d5, knight g4, rook h7, and it should be very, very good. Instead, Ding plays what I would say is the mouse with bishop c1, and now I take the bishop, and I win the game, and I force the tiebreaker as the match ends up all square here. Now, what I would say is that I got somewhat lucky, you could say, maybe here. But like I said, bishop d2 was still is losing. But the game goes on. Knowing the way that I was a little bit shaky, not finding these moves, anything could happen. But I think that I still would have won this game due to the time situation, is my guess. So I won this game to force the tiebreaker. So now we go to the tiebreaker, and the tiebreaker actually started out really nicely. I won a really nice game with black, and then I drew a game with white. So again, I thought that after winning this first tiebreaker game, it'd be very smooth. So let's go to the fateful game, which is where did it go? Let's go to the fateful game, which was this one, the big one. So we go to this game. I'm up 1.5. It's a best of 4. If Ding loses this game, it's all over. If he wins, we have game 4. If it's a draw, we still have game 4. So he plays the same thing. We got the same system. Actually, it tricked me with rook e1, and again, sort of showing that I wasn't completely sharp at the time. I allow this bishop c2. Now when you go bishop a6 here, the whole point is that white cannot move the bishop because you take the rook. So he goes rook e1. I just forgot to trade the bishops here. I played queen b7. Funny thing is that when I played Peter Heine Nielsen in the NH tournament in 2011, the current trainer of Magnus, he also allowed me to play a bishop c2 move in a similar setup. So I'm not the only person to blunder, and I did beat Pete. I think I did beat Peter in that game. Maybe it was a draw. I think actually it was a draw. But I allowed this trick. So we trade. I go bishop c4, plays rook b1. I trade. I go here. Now here I play bishop d8, which also at the time. Now that I look at this, I'm very upset at myself because I think I should have just gone queen a5. And okay, maybe white can take here and it's good for white. But again, there's a lot of complications, and it's hard to tell who would have been able to convert this. So I was pretty upset that I played this because I completely forgot that after e5, bishop a5, he has this very nasty bishop takes h6 idea. and now all hell kind of breaks loose after bishop a, actually wait, no, he didn't do that, did he? Wait, sorry, no, he didn't do this. I thought bishop h6, bishop c3, queen c1, or queen g5 was very, very messy. And whoa, thank you to Slim Marty for the 50 gifted. Thank you so much to Slim Marty, appreciate it. And I was very, very unsure what was going on here. And also the other reason I was upset at myself is because I told myself that I did not want this game to get out of control. I was ahead 1.5. If it's a draw, it's a draw, but just don't let it get out of control to where it becomes a 2-result game. And this completely becomes a 2-result game where either I'm going to win or I'm going to lose. So it takes queen c1, I take, and bishop h6, great move. I go here. If I take the rook on e1, he goes bishop g7. If I take, there's a beautiful checkmate. He goes queen g5, king h8, queen f6, king g8, queen g5, king h8, queen h6, king g8, queen h7 is checkmate. And so I play knight e8, but Ding plays bishop d2, which I think is wrong. Actually, no, we get it anyway. Sorry, he does it anyway later. I play knight e8 back, but here I could have saved this maybe. Oh, I could have traded. Oh, I could have traded and gone bishop b5. What? Very poor. Very poor. White's still better, but very poor. Very, very poor. Very, very poor. Anyway, so we got this position. We repeat. Ding takes correctly. Goes queen h6. Play f5, knight h5, rook f7. And now Ding finds another really nice tactic to end the game. Oh, I thought it was a nice tactic, but apparently there's a cleaner mate, which is rook b8. Now, apparently queen h7, king f8, rook e6 is mate in 4. Oh, because he can do the other order with rook b8 here. Oh, wow. Oh, that's so beautiful. Wow, 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 wow. That's beautiful. Oh, very nice. Very nice. I missed this. That's a nice trick. But again, what Ding does with rook b8 is good enough. Check, queen b8 I take, and after queen c7 I resign the game. So Ding wins this game, evens it up 1.5, 1.5, and we go to the final game of the tiebreaker. Not going to go through it super in depth, but we're tied 1.5. We get the same anti-marshal here, which I should not have played, by the way. I thought a lot of my opening choices were generally pretty poor throughout this match, especially in this game where I was thinking about it. Like, I realized as soon as I did this, I should not have played something that was pure prep for Ding. I don't know what I should have done, but I should have probably played in Italian or something else, because again, we get this set position which clearly Ding had prepared, or he's prepared over the past couple of months. And when I don't find the right moves here, it actually gets very dicey. Like, already here I was very worried that I was going to lose this game, even though I was up a little bit on the clock here. I think maybe 5 seconds. I was very concerned because there are no clear-cut moves for white. Black is knight c5, knight e4, knight c5, knight b3, queen f2, bishop h4, knight h4 even. And white's pieces are, it's very hard to activate the white pieces here. So I was quite concerned. So I played knight d3, he plays knight c5, we trade, and now I go f5, he plays queen f2. Oh, he didn't actually. During the game match I saw queen d5, but I thought I could play knight d4 and maybe salvage. Oh my god, he has knight h4, and I go queen g1, rook e1. Oh, so this was Ding's chance. Actually, what did I see? Maybe was I gonna go here? Maybe I thought I saw something. Okay, so this is a big miss. Actually, this is probably the reason Ding didn't win. If he plays queen d5, I think he wins this game. Wow. What did I... Yeah, I don't even know what... I know I saw queen d takes d5 when he played queen c5, but maybe when I was calculating, I'm just like, I gotta move, and I played f5, and then he didn't do it. He goes queen f2. I go bishop e3. Only move, by the way, if I play bishop d2 here. I think knight h4 is GG, because now the queen has to go to f1 or g1 or g4, but I lose the bishop. Same thing. So yeah, so I do this, I take, he takes, and now I go here, and now I play here, and now I take. Now somewhere around this point, by the way, after queen h4, if you guys were watching the live cams, I started actually yelling at myself somewhere around here, where I started yelling at myself, where I was like, you just gotta move, no matter what. And obviously on the stream you couldn't see it, but I was actually starting to yell at myself. So I play queen g1, and now I take, and somehow I guess this is losing if he finds rook b2 and queen e4. But again, it's very tricky. It's very tricky here, because the problem is that I do have a clear-cut plan. Like, I have like 5 instant moves, which I go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Like, I have a clear-cut plan here, so I don't actually have to think at all with my next sequence of moves. So he goes bishop g5, play here. And now after bishop e3 queen f1, Ding really, he makes a draw, and I don't blame him, because the problem is, again, at this point in time, Ding is the one who has to think, and I have just a very clear-cut plan of running my pawn down the board. Now again, computer says f5 and f4. I guess this is just winning because of what, like queen h3, queen g3, and rook f1, and this is winning for black because of a checkmate. Again, under the circumstances, I don't really blame Ding for not playing it. Like it's very double-edged, because if he finds f5, I think he wins the game. I would say like 90% chance he wins. But at the same time, if he's wrong and I get a6, a5, a6, a7, he's gonna have to sack the bishop, and he also is 100% gonna lose. So it's like, it's a very much a judgment call here. Very much a judgment call. And would I make the draw? I think if I didn't see queen h3 and rook f1, like in the split 5 seconds that I have, I don't see the queen h3 rook f1. I think I make the draw too. I think I would have played f5 also. Basically what it comes down to is, when you use your split seconds and you get here, do you spot queen h3 and rook f1? If you spot rook f1, yes. If you can't spot in that split second because we're both really low on time, then I think I would have done the same thing. I probably would have gone rook e2, rook f2, and made a draw as well. So it's very, I mean, it's very tricky, very double-edged here in terms of decision, because if you're right, you're gonna win, but if you're wrong, you're gonna lose for sure. But what I would say is that, based on the fact that I had the higher rating, now of course neither of us knew what the tiebreaker was beyond this, obviously. But if I was in, like, let's just say hypothetically, I'll use Magnus as an example, because he's obviously the player that I have the worst result against, and probably the player who's the biggest favorite when we play. So if I use that as the context for this situation, let's just say I'm playing Magnus in a position where I think I'm winning, but I can't see the win. But if I don't win the game, let's say I have a repetition, but if I don't win the game, it's going to be Armageddon, and he's going to pick the color. Would I take 100% win versus 100% loss in this position where I think I have something versus the Armageddon? Objectively, I think I would, actually. But that's assuming that you know the tiebreakers, and that, like, in that split second you make the decision. But a very, very tough, very, very tough decision. But I think if Ding goes to f5, it's 100% he wins or 100% he loses. There's no draw in play. And I think that he, in retrospect, well, I mean, obviously we know the result, so he should have done it. But even without the result, I think he still should have done it, simply because if it's because it's 100% win or 100% loss, and in an Armageddon 5-4, probably he's an underdog, because he was so close to winning the match so many times in Bullet that I would think that it probably swings back the other way, is my guess. But I could be wrong. No, Armageddon is a longer time. That's true. It is 5-4, you're right, versus 1-1, but I get to choose the color. And I feel like generally when you pick black, for the most part, you're going to draw. Not always, of course. I mean, I've had plenty of times I haven't either, but I think so. I think objectively he should have done it, just because it's 100% win, 100% loss. And if he gets to the Armageddon, it's probably he's an underdog with white. He probably is like it's probably 60-40. It's probably 40% versus 50% here at 100% win, 100% loss. And no increment either, which has to be a big favorite for me, which has to favor me as well by quite a big margin, I would say. Without increment, that has to be I have to be favored. So I think for that reason he should have, because he's 50% chance to win, like 100% win, 100% loss, or he's something, actually he's probably like 35%, and he's 35% if we're playing an Armageddon without increment. I think he's probably 35% is my guess. Yeah, 1 second. Okay, so anyway, Ding makes the repetition here, which means we play the Armageddon game, and I as the higher rated player, I get to choose the color, which oddly enough, you guys, I was thinking there was a point earlier this week when I was not the #1 player on chess.com, but while Wesley was playing Nihal and bleeding points in Nihal, I decided to jump on and play a couple of games, get the rating back up to #1, which kind of mattered. Maybe, I don't know if my rating dipped as low as 3130, but I know it was very close for a window, so it actually was very good that I got my rating back up, and therefore I had the choice. So the final game, the Armageddon game, I had 4 minutes, and Ding Liren had 5 minutes. He had the white pieces, and Ding actually chooses to play the English opening after not playing it the whole match. So knight f6, g3, e5, bishop g2, knight c6, he plays b3. Classic line. Magnus and I played this line a million times in the tour final last August, September. Hans Niemann also played this against me recently, I think in one of the blitz events. Pretty standard opening. And now here I play bishop b4 against Magnus. I always play queen d7, but I chose to play bishop b4 here. Queen c2 as low as 3130. Yeah. Queen d7, knight e4. Ding played the English against me in a couple of the tour events as well, I think. The d4, we get this position. Not a great position, by the way. White should be a little bit better here, but now Ding makes a big mistake. And he plays knight d4. I think it was higher rating when they wrote to me in Slack or Zoom or wherever it was. I'm pretty sure they told me it was that it was what was I gonna say? I was gonna say something. I'm pretty sure they told me it was rating, that it was not based on the seating in the event. At any rate, Ding plays knight d4, which is kind of a tragedy because after playing so well, he makes a big mistake and hangs knight to b4. So he takes, I take the rook, I go rook f8, takes, bishop d5, queen a6. Now the goal here is obviously it's still not really clear cut, but it is a little bit clearer, and I can try to simplify the position, which is why I play f5 here, to sort of get pieces off the board. Again, white has a knight and 2 pawns for the rook, so that is more than adequate compensation, but I am trying to simplify and get pieces off. So I go bishop f6, knight f3, knight d5, bishop a3. Again, it would be terrible if Ding allowed a second knight fork of a queen and a rook. So fortunately he plays bishop a3. Now I take again. Maybe not best, by the way, but I felt that again, I just want to get pieces off the board. Less pieces on the board, it's going to be easier to play, and I won't have to think about 20 different moves. So he goes queen d3, rook e8, target the pawn on e2, bishop c5, and play rook c8, d6. Again, he can take here, and it's probably best, but it's getting down to limited material again, and with 2.5, 3 minutes on the clock, it's going to be very, very hard to win. So instead he goes bishop d6, I play rook d8, a4, rook e4. Again, same concept, get pieces off the board. Bishop c5, we trade. I go h6 here, a5 is played, knight to d5 played here. He goes queen a6, and now I play knight to b4, and now Ding plays queen b5, go back, plays a6. Again, if he were to take the pawn on a7 here, I can just trade, go rook a8, bishop b6, knight c6. And at this point, white is completely fine. White will never lose the game, but white's also not going to be able to win the game, and I still had enough time on the clock that I was confident I would be able to draw. So he goes queen b5, I go knight d5, he goes a6, I go queen d7. Again, same concept, just get pieces off the board, get this position, and now I go queen c6, queen d3, queen e6, and now he takes the pawn, and I go rook a8 here. Basically, the only way that I can lose this is if white is somehow able to get 2 passed pawns rolling up the board. So he takes, I go rook a8, knight e4. Now I found queen e4, really the last critical move that I had to find in the game. We trade, he goes knight c6, and now I go knight c7, plays b4. Now I take the pawn, which by the way is a mistake. This is actually quite a serious mistake here. I should have played knight to b5, and now after bishop c5, rook a6, again I can't lose, but what I did allows him a little trick which he missed, which is after b5, knight b4, he has the brilliant move knight to e7 check, king f7, and pawn to b6. And now if I take the knight, he gets b7, and everything is, and white's, I mean, it's probably still a draw with correct play, but it's going to be very tricky with no time on the clock. But instead he plays knight b4, and now after rook a7, it's all gone. White can still probably draw this with some correct play. Well, like maybe knight a6, rook b7, knight c5, and knight e4. But again, you're never going to win this game here. And also I had enough time. I had I think about 1 minute and 10 seconds, so it was never really in doubt here. Instead he goes b6, rook a5, knight 6, rook b5, and here Ding, I mean, kind of accepted that the match was over. He thought for about 30 seconds, and then he resigned the game here. And I did win this Armageddon game, and I do win the match, and I advanced to the final match against Wesley So, which will be happening on Sunday, I believe, Sunday the 19th. So that's coming up on Sunday, if I'm not mistaken. That's what we have. So yeah, all right, so that is going to be my recap of the match. I think what I would say broadly is that it was a very, very difficult match. Would I agree that every consecutive year SEC is getting more difficult for you? Players are getting real close. I have to say that not to sound like Magnus at all, but I find that with every year when I play this event, I also I find that it gets boring's maybe the wrong word, but I find that the only thing in my mind is like just trying to get to the bullet portion without being behind. That's almost the only thing in my mind. Is it's like, okay, we're gonna play a match, just keep it close until bullet. That's almost the only thought in my mind. And I do find that it's I find that it's like it's kind of hard. Also, this is the first year that I've played in it where I haven't actually been doing any preparation. Like in past years, I was doing quite a bit of preparation before the matches, but now I just go in and play the match. So players are obviously getting better, but I do think there is something to be said that a little bit of it is also kind of that it's like, to me, I feel yesterday proved it wrong, of course, but I feel that in general, if I get to the bullet and I'm not behind, I'm not gonna lose. I'm gonna win the match. Like, I'm probably 90% to win if we get there. Won't Wesley know all your prep now though? Okay, but who says I'm not gonna prep for Wesley? I mean, it was a big wake up call that I probably have to do some prep for Wesley. So no, yeah, now I probably will. Since this game was really close, or this match was really close, very tense, and probably I should have lost this match. We're being fair. Yeah, say hi to Wesley who's watching. Hey Wesley, I hope you enjoyed this analysis. I hope you're ready for completely different openings. I'm gonna spend 10 hours preparing. All right. So, yeah. Anyway, you guys, yeah, I mean, I think there are many things to be said. Ding obviously played a great match. Make no mistake. I think for me, there were a couple things that I did really poorly though. Like my time usage was very bad. Like that game in the 3-1 where I 2.5 minutes and he had 30 seconds was a perfect example of not using my time the way that I should have. And I think that happened throughout the match. Was that I just was not using my time very well. Ding was actually doing a great job. Like, a lot of people say he got too low on time, which he did at times, but for the most part, I thought his time usage was very good. I thought he used time at the right moments. Even though he got low, it was the right time. It was the critical moments to do that. So yeah, so it's what it is. But anyway, we get the win and we move on to the final match. Will be on Sunday. Ding was better in most openings, yeah, because I didn't play E4 early enough. That was the problem. But yeah, we're playing on December 19th at 10 a.m. Pacific, 7 a.m. Eastern time. So we're playing at 10 a.m. Pacific, 7 a.m. Eastern on December 19th, and that will be 7 p.m. Central European Standard Time, and that will be 23:30 Indian Standard Time as well. So that's what we have going on.
Welcome back to the Speed Chess Championship. We have the players here. We won't keep them for very long. First, Hikaru, to you, congratulations. That was an absolutely epic match. Can you share your thoughts about the match overall, and more specifically, could you share what goes through your mind when you're down by 1 and the clock is fading? What do you tell yourself in that moment to keep yourself composed?
Yeah, I mean, I think the main thing is you kind of just have to keep going, believe in yourself. I had a very similar situation actually in the Bulls Speed Championship, or Bullet Championship, whatever it was called. Maybe I want to say it was maybe all the way back in April when I played Ali Resin. It was very similar, where I started off very well. Then he came back, he took the lead, and then I think right near the end, I got it to where I had just enough time to potentially force a tiebreak. And I think I actually blundered a little trick in the final bullet game. But based on that experience, is the same thing where you just try to you just try to hang in there. You try to believe that good things will happen. But it was obviously a very tough match, and a lot of credit goes to Ding for playing so well.
Yeah, Ding, you definitely played very well today. And this was an extremely close match. Did you expect that the match would go down to the wire like this? Were you prepared to play like a tiebreak?
Of course, I did not prepare tiebreak, but I thought the game will be closer than the other thoughts, since I totally believe my strengths. Although he's a favorite, but I have the chance like the World Championship. So today's game was very tense. Yeah, I did not know that it was the last game. If I draw, then I will win the match. I did not know. After I lost the black pieces, I know that there will be a tiebreak. Yeah, it hurt a little bit, but I have so many tries here and there, and I think I had more better positions than Hikaru, but he defended well, and sometimes he play very quickly in a very complicated position. Yeah, that's his strength. And in the end, he's a better Armageddon player.
Well, Hikaru, Ding mentioned getting good positions. It did seem like you were getting some dubious positions out of the opening with white in the 5-minute portion. At some point, you switched to 1e4. Was that a planned change, or was that precipitated by not having positions that you were satisfied with early in the match?
Yeah, I mean, it's funny. I think I tilted at two moments, kind of. The first one is very funny because I think I was up, maybe it was like 1.5 half. I think it was the third or fourth game when I should have won this game to take a 2-game lead. That was the first moment. And there was also this next moment. I know it was 5-1 or 3-1 where I was up by a game, but I just blitzed every move and lost in like 25 moves with white. And after that, it wasn't my match at all. So I feel that I kind of just tilted, and I was just trying to play too fast. I didn't feel any rhythm. I was just trying to play too fast, and I mean, I got away with it for the most part, but it wasn't pretty.
Final question to you, Hikaru. You're playing Wesley in the final. It's become one of the classic rivalries in American chess. I know a lot of people are looking forward to that match. Any thoughts about Wesley as an opponent and about the match overall?
I mean, I don't know. I have to say, out of all the Speed Chess Championship matches, I mean, I know the score was close, but I thought that this match was the hardest match I played, and that includes the match that I lost to Magnus, by the way. I mean, obviously Ding couldn't convert in quite to the same degree as Magnus did, but I don't know. After the match today, I'm just gonna try to play good chess, and hopefully good things happen. But really, today was a very epic match, and it was a lot of fun to play.